Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to go a little bit about order here. Secretary Warner, it's good to see you. All the work you've done in Virginia, your family, really proud Mountaineers, and it's good to have you before the committee. I do want to ask you a couple of questions. First, as we have members of the military overseas fighting for our freedoms, and with that being said, there's no better place to focus our attention on the ability to give our military veterans and our service members the right to vote. What are the tools that you're using in West Virginia to increase military opportunities to vote?
The most prominent is the ability to vote using a mobile device. I had trouble. I was in Afghanistan for 5 years, and I had trouble voting. I went 6 months without being able to send or receive mail. My sons and daughters, all four, have served in the military. Every one of them has had trouble voting. My brother's roommate, Shane Kimbrough, was commander of SpaceX. How's he supposed to vote on the space station if it's not using some sort of mobile device? That's why one of the first things I did when I went into office was I said, let's come up with an electronic way to transmit and receive ballots. So that's what we've done in the state of West Virginia. And who better than our military? But also, it worked so well in West Virginia that we went to voters with certain disabilities and now first responders. We actually deployed first responders to the state of Mississippi on a hurricane disaster relief within the 6-day period prior to an election, so they lost that ability to vote. That's why we've championed that. We now have a verifiable system to both check that the ballot that they send is the ballot received. So we're advancing that technology in those limited circumstances. I don't advocate going mainstream with this. I simply want it for those people who otherwise would be disenfranchised.
And I appreciate that. My next question is going to be to you, Mr. Palmer. The security and performance of election equipment used by our states and our localities has been under significant scrutiny. We've heard concerns from the public about the fact that there are components of our election equipment being manufactured outside of the United States. Is it true that there are certain components of the election equipment that are not made in America?
That is true.
So what would it take to reshore some of the election equipment used in the country's elections?
That would be a significant endeavor, since most of the voting equipment does use sources from outside the country. It would probably raise the price of election equipment significantly. There could be some requirements to assemble in the United States. There are other risk management strategies to sort on the supply chain. But there would be a significant cost to that for election equipment on the states.
What countries are these components being manufactured?
You have the Philippines, you have Taiwan, where you might have certain components, even Italy, European countries, and perhaps even China. But so there are states, there are nations out there that in the supply chain that provide materials that we simply don't manufacture today in mass quantities.
So it's safe to say that there could be companies that are Chinese, that whether they are manufacturing them or whether they have ownership of those companies that are actually Chinese companies.
Well, Chinese companies are providing components and materials to a piece of voting equipment, a voting system that is then manufactured by one of the vendors. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Mr. Chairman, yield back.